girl Ashley Happy Ballin with another episode of Happy Ballin Basketball Show. We're gonna review the Netflix series Untold, Malice in the Palace. You know, before we do that, want to introduce my guest, Williams. Tell
What
him
up? What
about your
up?
channel, Road to Williams. What up?
What up? Welcome. I mean, you like what? This is my jam. Thanks for having me on the show. Cause Road to William. Wow. It's been a while. It's been a journey. The I just capture my life, my journey, what I've been through. I talk about things in my life I've been through. I talk about um I kind of like pay homage to people who have paved the way in different ways through music, through art, film, poetry, what have you. Making an impact in the world is what I like paying homage to. So go check out my channel. I also am doing movie reviews as well. So if you have any movies you want me or my cousin to watch, let us know in the comments. But yeah, thanks for having me on, cuz always.
No prob, no prob. We're gonna review the infamous fight, the big fight in 2004 between the Pacers and the Pistons at the Palace of Auburn Hills. It's a big, big, giant kaboom. Uh, a brawl. And this documentary basically covers a lot of, behind the scenes of like the background of like really happened, what were players thinking. So they interviewed a lot of Pacers, Jermaine O'Neal, Reggie Miller, Ron Artest, Steven Jackson. There was only one Piston that was interviewed, that was Ben Wallace. They also interviewed like different fans and security and different media, recovering, different footage, the news, saying they thugs after the brawl. But what I like to do in movie reviews is if you could, describe this movie in one word, well, it wasn't a movie, but short. It actually was perfect. It was only like an hour and some 10 minutes to explain, breakdown of it. What would be one word to describe this doc? And so I was thinking, why not call it malice? But then I was like, nah, that's too obvious. So I, mine's is explosive, right? Because I feel like it's like a grenade or a bomb that went off and just one instant changed a bunch of futures, you know? And that's sort of like one decision you make and just how it impacts others. And I feel like, this didn't have to happen. This didn't have to happen, you know. And I'm gonna ask you, who you think's fault is it is, who was the most to blame, different things like that. But I feel like it's like a bomb went off, and then one thing led to another, and just bunch of landmines, pow, pow, pow. Like you at war. So that's why I call it explosive. What would your word be?
My word would be team. I was contemplating different words. The first thing I wrote down when I was starting to watch it was peace, because they was talking a lot about like the missing piece to the puzzle. They're trying to build the team, but then I went to leadership because then I was like, oh, like when Donnie Walsh hopped in the conversation, I was kind of like making notes of what presidents or owners are looking for, not just like the coaches are looking, because it all starts from the owners like, and it's like, okay, what is the top dog of the game looking for in the game to get in the arena. And but then toward the end I was like, it's really team, because um after that terrible, and we'll get to the media because you did bring it up a little bit, but just a side note, it took me a while to even find a good picture related to this story without it showing the fight itself. It's like I get, it was a turning point in people's careers and NBA and life and stuff, but is it just reiterated the fact that media, whether it's an article, TV, what have you, it's people talking about other people and pointing out a flaw. And if it was reflected back on them, we would find what. But I just find it that funny, which is why, like, on my show, I like going back in history because it's funny how you still see the same things happening today. And I found it funny that players still get ridiculed today. It's even a more tight watch because everybody has an account. Everybody has more access to the players, and it's a up and down to it always. And they still go through it, but I like how Jermaine O'Neal and the rest of them spoke on how like they couldn't speak out after everything happened and they just needed an outlet. So it's like I know media is even harsher now and want to cancel everybody now, but I think it's so dope that LeBron James is probably one of the first players that I don't know of. I know Stephen Curry had his own podcast too, but LeBron did something different where it was like, okay, everybody got a podcast coming out. That's good, but nobody got nothing specifically for the players, specifically for industry people that they feel safe enough to talk about stuff, knowing they ain't gonna bring up the worst. And so just building your own safe haven, your own thing. I like how that's important because if they had that, what is it called? What LeBron James show is called?
Mind, mind the game or something like that.
When they're in the barber shop. What did you
Oh,
got
the
to?
barber shop. I think it's just called the
The
shop,
shop.
isn't it?
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like that. Like if they had the shop back in the day when they first was starting out and needed, people like Jermaine O'Neal and World Meta Peace. Is that right? Um, they needed outlets like this, and I just like that they have one now, and that they continue to tell stories. So Untold, that's a really good series going. So thanks guys for putting me on, putting me on to that. But yeah, my word ended up being team because at the end of the day, like whatever ups and downs, like you was building the team. Everybody was talking about the qualities of the other player. Like no one really talked too much about themselves except if it was like a personal matter. And so on and off the court, like you got to be a team. And I think the downfall of them was like they weren't as one. Like you was talking to the media one on one when your team should just be talking after them. You close them doors or whatever when you're on the sidelines. But when you're frustrated and media is new and it's what the early 2000s, nobody don't have no PR or people telling them like, no, you shouldn't say this or that. But then it's like he's the same person who said he didn't have an outlet. So it's like maybe he felt like the media was his only chance to really get his point across because maybe he felt like he wasn't being heard in the locker rooms. It's kind of like even deeper than that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm gonna go with team.
Okay, okay, that's a good word, because, overall it affects the team, So,
Hmm.
basically, there there should be rivalries in the NBA and a lot of, beefs,
Hmm.
but nobody, the fights still happen, but it's not like, it's not serious. Like people like trash talk and stuff, very rarely do people physically, get throw punches once in a while, once in a blue moon, but it's mostly just, oh, egos talking. But, you know,
Hmm.
this is this was a big rivalry because when you meet in the playoffs and you know one team wins a ring, you don't, you want to win a championship, and so there's bad blood, and also their styles are similar, because they're like built on toughness, and
Hmm.
so Ron Artest, they talk about. his background a little bit.
Hmm.
They even tell about Steven Jackson and Jermaine O'Neal's background and how they're similar. It is good to know that even Jermaine O'Neal and Ron Artest didn't really get along. And that's common, with teammates. Some teammates butt heads, every now and then. Um, and I did like the Johnny Walsh, talking about how he built the team. Um, who do you think started this whole riot? Because obviously, Fan threw the beer, right? Well, actually, Ron Artest fouled Ben Wallace. He was like, "No, that's a bad foul. Game's over." You know, and then he calms down, trying to, process it. Trying to do what his therapist said. Count to five, and the Fan throws a beer on him, and then Ron Artest, proceeds to go and you know, get the Fan, and then Steven Jackson was like, "Yo, I gotta defend my teammate," and Reggie Miller was there. Well, he didn't play that game, but you know, there was a lot of
Hmm.
suspensions, and then there was an NBA dress code because the NBA at that time was trying to come up with a new television deal, and it was in like collective bargaining agreement. So David Stern is known to like you know put the hammer down sometimes. So the
Hmm.
commissioner, he did all the suspensions. He's
Hmm.
he's done a lot of rules.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, who do you think is was the one that started it, and who do you think suffered the most? I think, clearly Reggie Miller suffered the most because,
Ah.
he was trying to win that chip. He was trying to win that chip for, Indiana. Also, but do feel like, obviously the players lost money. They lost a chance at a championship.
Hmm.
But I also feel like I gotta hold the fans accountable.
Yeah.
Yes, fans throw things even at the Bucks games today. Um, if you buy a bottled soda, you can't keep the cap. They keep the caps. Why? Because you can throw them. So they're making up all these silly rules. But if the fan never throws the beer, then this doesn't happen. Then it's just, okay, this person gets this technical, this person gets a technical, it's over. And then, you just let the chips fall as they may. And guess who ended up winning that year? The Pistons. They won back to back championships. And who
Hmm.
knows what the outcome could have been if it was different? Who knows? But, and some people might say, Ron Artest. The media says, oh, they're thugs. The media is always like thugs, this, thugs, that, especially with this whole, you know, when the NBA was the NBA never used to be like all black, but then, time started changing. And so, sometimes when you give them ammo, they be like, yay, ammo to throw at black players. But no, you should hold the fans accountable too. And fans still talk trash to this day, talking about people's families in the crowd, you know, and some
They
fans
were
still,
taunting. They were taunting Bronny the other month or two, and
yeah.
he was showing off his chain, and Bronny was like, "That's why that chain fake." Like, that's crazy. But I get what you're saying because I feel like this is my take. I'm gonna blame Walsh first. There's a few people to blame, but we're gonna go down the line. You can't walk around saying I'm the president and I helped founded these great people, great players team, and not put in security clearances in place. You need to emulate the NFL or something. Like you can't just think I have this huge arena. the crowd is going nuts. There's already tension. There's been tension before. These
That,
crowds is nutty.
that,
There were
well, that,
3 officers on deck.
that,
There were
that,
one, two, three, and they couldn't do much because they were like, somebody would steal our weapons if we got too close. Whoa. So I don't know when security started building more in arenas. I don't know what it's like for you because you go. What is security like going to a Bucks game?
there's lots of security. Um, there's lots of security. I don't know why there wasn't a lot of security. First of all, you're in Detroit. Also, this is a big rivalry. This is the championship ring night. You know they have
Mhm.
bad blood between each other, so I don't really get it, you know. But also Donnie Walsh, he's like the president of the Pacers, and that was the Pistons arena. And he's mostly just in charge of like putting the team together. But
Okay,
yeah,
well, he can get it too. But like him, whoever is in charge of security, that's their fault. Then if you want to get it down to the court, you know, I mean, there was this one I had to keep rewinding where the foul was. They was talking about Ron. It was one of these fouls, and I was just like, "Where's the foul?" I kid you not, I was rewinding like 5 times trying to understand. But it was when he like had his fist up. I didn't feel like he was trying to punch. I thought I was looking for a swing, and he just put his arm, and I'm like, "What's going
oh no,
on?"
that was nothing. That was like
That's but stuff like that. It's like I'm like, I don't see where the issue lied. So when it came to this, I was like, what? What's
I definitely agree that security is at fault. Where is the security, you know? And
Mhm.
you know, Ron Artest he reacts very quickly, so you know somebody should have got him, you know. But still, you know,
They should have they should have let them leave the court way before then. Like the first throw of drink, they should have been like, all right, they wilding. We gotta protect the players. The players weren't protected. And the fans, weren't protected, although I saw some fans jumping in on the fight. Like it's one thing if you're around it and all this is going on around you, but there I saw some kids. It was knocking them. I'm like, what's going on? But security lacked. Um, Everybody kind of lost control, but the suspension, 25, 30 games. It's crazy because I don't know. I don't know. I think everybody should have got punished at that point because, you know, you're gonna crowd, fans is fans, but you gotta draw a line somewhere like Glorilla. She had did a show somewhere and she stopped the show because she saw people in the crowd fighting and she warned them and was like, look, y'all got one more. They start back fighting and she was like, all right, we done. And you have to do that because people do pass away from at concerts because it gets rowdy. You do have to point the blame at the crowd, at the media, at not just the entertainment industry, but the people who uphold it. We talk about we the people hold it up too. Okay, so everybody really is to blame, and it's just like something you look back on. It's just like anything. It's like a game almost. You see the game, look back, be like, "Dang, I could have did this better. This did that." But if that never happened, they wouldn't have realized how important you know it is to protect people at games, at wherever, just in general. I don't know.
yeah, you know, a lot of people are at fault. The lack of security, you know, the fans, players. Yeah, the players should have been off the court, but I think it all happened so fast, and people that weren't even involved, like you said, were jumping in on it. Fans trying to get chairs and throw them. I did like at the end that they were tracking some of the fans down. I'm pretty sure some fans didn't get punished because they probably didn't get caught, but they did track down some fans to, punish them a little bit. And they probably got, I think some of them got like fines or like community service or like banned from Pistons games or something like that. But it's like something that sticks with you, and it probably sticks to the NBA too because they're trying to say we can't let this happen again. We have an image to uphold, and that's why the dress code was the dress code because they were like, oh, they're thugs, blah, blah, blah. So that's why David Stern put in a dress code trying to control the way you dress because he's trying to control the way the media talks about you. But really, the clothes shouldn't matter, you know? They don't really know the players personally. And I heard it was edited, so it mostly showed the players, you know, throwing punches. Some players say they were defending themselves or their teammates. But I don't think they were really, outcasting the fans, that
It was a
weren't even in
reaction.
it,
It was
you
a
know?
reaction, and I hated that scene where you just see the fans throwing the drinks, soda, coffee, whatever. Looked like somebody was trying to spit on them, and it's just like, but a lot of them was palm people, and I was like, this is a little rooted in hate. We're gonna talk about sinners later, but I'm just saying it's rooted in hate. When you start, because I'm like, I know it ain't no black people or no people of color. You know what I mean? Throwing no, I ain't see that. I did see some of them wanted to squabble up with them. I'm like, what are y'all even doing? But I did see some like older black men trying to stop the players, like, yo, what you doing? Like, there were some people who were trying to help, but it's chaotic. It's over. Like they said, it was what 15 players versus the world in that arena. Like, security is important. You know, people like to talk crap about them, but they're important. They're needed because look. If just imagine no security at an NFL game, everybody's on the field. You know what I'm saying? But I did not like that. That really pissed me off when I saw them throw all them drinks on them because you can, spew your hate. You can say whatever you want. But when that's assault. Y'all want to try and act like there was a scene there was like, oh, we should try and act like we got hurt. And you guys admitted to saying that? Like, but I'm just like, y'all don't care about them. You treating them like animals. You only like what they can do for you, give you temporary pleasure, temporary happiness. That means your life's crap when you leave this arena. If you feel the need to throw some drinks on some players who entertain your goofy head, people can't even afford to go to the games, and you over here throwing your $30 soda on them. Goofy. Sorry,
I
I
gotta
didn't know.
make this, I gotta make this one into a reel. But, yeah,
That was terrible.
yeah, I
That
think,
was terrible.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of racism, even from the media calling them thugs, that's rooted in hate. If you have the opportunity, you can show, like, this is the thing, like, yes, you can be a fan of the Pistons, but the Pistons also have black players. But
Hmm.
it's almost like sports do bring different races together. However,
Be
there are
honest.
there are some fans that still are racist, even
Oh
though
yeah.
some of the even though some of the players are black, but they just like
Call him
no,
out, Ashley.
seriously, like. like there's a lot of racist people that feel like, oh, eh, I like the Pistons, you know, but you only like them because of what they can do. They're winning games and all of that. You know, that's why you like them. But really, if they if they were white, you would really like praise them like a god. But seriously, you there's a
Mm,
lot of
mm, mm.
fans that, like sports bring different races together, right? They can band together. But if you notice, as soon as certain, fans had the opportunity to throw things at the players, they're doing it. And, you might say, oh, they're a Pistons fan, but some people are rooted, have racist hearts in their
Yes.
minds. Something goes off in their minds. It's like, oh, I
Yes.
could do this to a black person. Oh, yeah. I'm going to
The
throw my
joy in it.
yeah.
People, there are old photos you can look online of white people smiling and lynching, smiling, and got the kids smiling too, like they're at a fucking fair. Sorry, you
Whoa.
gotta. I
and,
forgot
and
this is I be balling. This is a different channel. Sorry,
and
but you get what I'm saying. That's
yeah,
sick. It's
yeah,
rooted in that. At the end of the day, if they weren't up there dribbling that ball, you would not care
yeah. And
at
like you
all.
said, it's sort of like the zoo. You go to the zoo, to see what the animals can do. Yee. But um, my thing is like some fans might say, I'm not racist because my team is the Pistons, and look, there's a black player on the Pistons. I root for them. But really, some of y'all are closet racist. Like, if they weren't, if they get traded to your team, you're just gonna be, you're gonna be like talking bad about that player. But if they on your team, oh, you love them now. Oh yeah.
Right.
It's like
We're
the same people.
family. Oh, y'all using
Right.
that word too loosely.
Yeah.
That's why I
And
like they were like, who is it? I forgot writing his name down, but he was in it a lot.
Steven
He
Jackson,
interviewed what's his first name? Jackson.
Steven Jackson.
Yeah, Steven Jackson. He side note, I forgot the other guy's name, but they interviewed VP Harris back when she was running 2024 election. So I was like, tip your hat off to that off rip.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
if you wanna talk hate about these players, you look further down the line and you kind of where's everybody at? You wouldn't have envisioned that, not from this film, that moment. You'd been like, oh, they're all done. You guys talk about cancel culture. Oh, y'all would have been done.
Yeah.
Y'all would have been done.
So, what do you think is like the important lesson of the movie? I mean, of the doc. Like, what message was it? Um, I think the message was like, one action can just have ripple effects.
Mm-hmm.
Just go over and over and over. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it and I feel like it's almost like some fans they take the game too far. I think
Right.
some fans take it too
Right.
far. Like, yes, I'm a passionate Bucks fan, but I ain't gonna throw stuff at you. I'm not gonna, talk bad about your family. I'm gonna talk bad about your skills, about your
Right.
coach, but there's just things that you don't do. It's crossing the line. And,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the fans, I feel like they just got their 15 minutes of fame. The one that threw the beer, he was on the news smiling about it, like, oh, I'm happy that Don Artest punched the wrong guy. And then there's this other guy who's like, um, I think he's the one that got on the court. Like, how are these players getting on the
Right.
court, first
And
of all?
why did you go on the court? And I
And
kept thinking, like, who is this? Because I'm like, is he part of like the coaches or something. Like the whole
No,
time I missed the like his name and everything. So I'm like, who is it? And when it was finally like him who walked on the court, I was like, why did they give him his own side or whatever? Everybody
yes.
got
Like
their own
the
15
15 minutes
minutes.
of fame.
Literal 15 minutes because they he was I was like, who is this? Every time he popped up.
And,
I'm like, that's terrible. But
and I'm not gonna
that's
talk bad
crazy.
about him. I'm not gonna say what I was thinking at the time because I was like,
I mean,
this
that's
is
kind of
then and
crazy.
this is now.
I
So I
just
was
want to
like,
know what was your purpose of going on that court? Because he's just, I feel like he didn't address that. Maybe he did and I didn't hear it, but I felt like
he,
that was missed. Because what was the point? You just was benefiting from the fact that he slightly knocked you down. But why did you go up there? You weren't going up there for no good graces. You wanted to have a moment. You wanted somebody to
yeah,
have your flip phone, you know what I'm saying? And take a photo. I don't know what era that was. It was like 2004, right? But I don't know why he was on that court. That's the only question I'll have. And the second is why is he on this document? But but they had everybody. I mean, they had the guy who threw it. I'm like, dang, how are they? You can't tell me you can't find nothing in this world. You done found specific people to do a
they was reviewing the
documentary.
tapes.
Now
And
that's research. That's dedication.
mm-hmm.
So
And
shout out to the person who did that.
yeah, and I think he got in trouble for going on the court and throwing the beer because the person that went on the court, I guess the camera saw that he had a clutched fist, so I think he got in trouble too. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh, also the dude that goes on the court says it was a, it wasn't a good. He said that Ron Artest sucker punched him, and it was a BIPCH move, and I'm like,
oh
you are
yeah,
the one that
gloating
went on the
on it. That's
court,
what I'm saying. That's why I was
and
like,
how
well, who is he? And then I was like,
what were you
oh,
expecting? Like you weren't, your back
you
wasn't
wanted a
turned.
full brawl. He wanted him to smack you like WWE SmackDown. Like, bro, go play a video game. Why are you guys feeling like this is the opportunity to shine
I
and
don't
put
know.
out all your bad whatever you got going on? What's going on? That's why it shocked me because I was like, where was I at this time in my life? I was like, I ain't never heard of this. I was just looking at it. I'm like, it can't get worse. And it just kept getting worse. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, but yeah, I think that's the. It's just one action, one moment, one night can change so many lives. That's what I think the lesson is. What do you think, like, is the overall message?
hmm.
There could be a lot of different
Oh, wow.
messages. There could be a message how media perceives black people, you know, how they perceive the black players, how the media is one-sided, you know. You could talk about, you know, how you can't take things for granted because this was Reggie Miller's last chance. And they were even talking about it like, yes, Steven Jackson and, Ron Artest went on to success and have, championships. But Jermaine O'Neal, he wasn't the same after that. Like, he still played basketball, obviously, but he didn't get to win no championship. He wasn't really on winning teams, really. Uh, so, and you
It
can
was
just,
tension.
yeah, there's tension and, you know, bitterness because,
Yeah.
Ron
Because they
Artest
were
did his
right
own thing.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ron Artest, he definitely has, mental health issues. There's also a documentary called Quiet Storm that talks about
Mm.
Ron Artest more. Like this was more so about that one night, but Quiet Storm is about Ron Artest's life. And,
Okay, I gotta watch that. Yeah.
yeah, I'll probably review that, you know, because it talks more about his mental health. And even when he won the championship, he
Mm,
said out loud, I wanted to thank my therapist. And,
mm,
back then, players weren't really talking about mental health. Even then, like a lot of players going through the NBA with mental health issues, and the NBA
Mm,
wasn't helping them. It was
right.
only um until like DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Love, they're all-star type players. They have good reputations. When they were
Mm,
speaking out about their depression and anxiety attacks, then the NBA is like, oh, we better do something and provide more for them. And it took NBA All-Stars to do that. But if it's
mm,
like a role player or a player like Ron Artest, who's has a bad image, a bad reputation,
right.
it's perceived it's like, and even the NBA admitted, they're like, yeah, we're behind on this mental health thing. And so I'm like, you've been around for a long time, guys. But I think,
Oh, oh, go ahead.
oh, do you
I
want to say something?
I think what I took from this film is what I kept seeing on repeat, which I loved, which is part of. I think it was dope how they did it. Like it was a TV in a setting. First, it started in a gym, then it started on the street. You know, basketball court. But I think it was to me that meant like lessons is on the court, on and off the court, on the street, in the gym. There's gonna be a lesson that you gotta learn from, and that's why I say like this film is like about that moment, but we got to learn so much about the individuals, including the ones we didn't expect to hear from, to tie in a moment. But the lesson I think is like you said, appreciate what you have. Take that moment in. I think it's like appreciate the moment, good or bad, because you're gonna look back on that. That's what's gonna help you like know you can get through anything. It's like that big moment you felt like was a big moment in your life. You can always have that big moment, even if it's bad, to reflect on, because then you only have forward, so you just gotta reflect because you can't change the past. You can only change you, and change that moment, and I still think they should all get together at some point and talk it out because even in the film, you could tell it was tension, but that was 2021. Maybe they have since the film, I don't know, but it still felt like a lot of tension within the players, but they built a really good team because it is rare, because they mentioned it is rare to find like kind of an all-star team. It's really hard to keep that too. But yeah, that's what I took from it.
Yeah, you live with some regrets, and yeah, you know, and he was young at the time, um, went to the Lakers, was with the Rockets. So, but also, I think a lot of the players have the like same personality. So if you have the same personality, they're similar in ways, and like Steven Jackson said, they're different.
Mhm.
They probably should have had more Reggie Miller type players, not in talent, but like in
Character or
leadership.
mindset.
Yeah,
He said
leadership,
it.
maturity,
He said
because
that, but they clowned him for it, and that's the problem with the black community specific is that you do want more Reggie Miller mindsets, more Kobe, the more Mamba mentalities, but there's still people who want to negate that. Like, okay, but you know what I'm saying? There's always gonna be some type of rebuttal.
yeah, and he was also young, and he probably didn't know how to deal with anxiety and depression, but also
Mm,
he wasn't very mature either. He was like, I'm gonna do this rap album during this during the
I gotta
season,
go
and
check that out now. I was like, wait a minute.
yeah,
But they clowned him.
he can rap. He's one of those rappers that um like Dame Dollar, he's the most
Mm,
popular one, but before Dame
mm.
Dollar was even in the NBA, there was like some, like even Allen Iverson was rapping. Kobe tried to rap one time. Shaq was rapping, so but yeah, I
Mm,
mean, yeah. eh, yeah, it is hard to build a team because everybody has a different personality. And
yeah.
yeah, like with fans, like there definitely needs to be more security. There needs to be security, not even there needs to be security outside the arena and
Yes.
inside the arena, on the court, in the stands. There needs to be security all over. Um, hey, I didn't
Yeah.
really see many ushers. Well, ushers
Mm.
only just like direct you, but they don't really, they're not
And what
security
can they
guards. But
do? I'm not.
yeah, they
I
can't
used
do
to be
nothing.
an usher too. I'm
They
not
probably
jumping
ran.
in.
I honestly would
I'm
have
about to
ran.
go at get the help. People, hey, go. What the?
But
Maybe there's
yeah,
like in-house security, but they didn't call them that back then. Cause like, where was everybody at?
I would have
Y'all
dipped.
can't just blame the players and the people in there. You got to blame the foundation of it, the people who
Yeah,
run it too. Like, it can't just be the people like we get it. Oh yeah, but okay, but then point out everybody because it's not just their
yeah.
fault.
Everybody's to blame. Everybody gets a little bit of piece of the blame pie. Um, did you have
That's
like a
crazy.
favorite player or scene or quote? Um,
Um,
I I think I
oh
just liked everybody's perspective, and
yeah.
I Stephen A. Jackson. Sometimes I don't like him because he said some things about the Bucks, but I do. He was actually on the Bucks one time, and he said he said in a press conference, "If you're scared, go to church." I said, "Oh my goodness." But he speaks his mind, and I
Yeah.
did like when he said to the camera, "This is the last time I'm gonna talk about this." That was funny. Um, but yeah, yeah. I did feel bad about O'Neal because his reputation was big for him, and so
Mm,
not only did you not win, your career kind of went didn't go the best. And also people are like asking you about the brawl, but not about your career. So I felt bad for him.
yeah.
Felt bad for Reggie. He's getting up there. It was his last chance. But yeah, yeah. Did you have any favorite quotes, scenes, players, or
No, I think what stuck out was what Reggie Miller said was like, you gotta have the mindset. You can't just like know how to play ball. Like you gotta know how to control yourself in these heated
yeah,
moments because there's gonna happen. Because even he said it like he's been in the game at that point. What 18 years he said. And he was talking about like if you can't listen to somebody who been in the game telling you it's the mindset. That's right. That they had to get off that plane right there, that train, because if you can't listen to somebody, you can't listen to nobody. You got to listen to something in your own way. Like
yeah.
Ron had to kind of figure himself out. Yeah, he ended up at awards, you saw, but that was his way of trying to figure stuff out. Like everybody don't really communicate the same way. I think it was just like miscommunications with a lot of them. And the goals of it matter too. Like Jermaine was talking about providing a foundation, a wealth for his family. And he was coming out the game 17. The amount of pressure and to have this, it's kind of like I could see why he might feel a way about his mentor stepping out because he like, wait, you're the reason why we're all here. But it's like if I don't know if that was communicated that he was being like the next up to lead, maybe that should have been communicated more because then it wouldn't have felt he wouldn't have felt like, oh, once Reggie left, like, well, we all fall apart. No, like I don't know would have been the best way for that, but I think like I said, miscommunication. Miscommunication.
Um, what do I think? Well, I just think if Ron Artest was in his 30s and not his 20s, maybe it would have worked out. Age
Mm,
and maturity is, you know, you got to be on the same page.
Mm.
and it wasn't there, because
Yeah.
I think I would be mad too if I was O'Neal. Because the part that's funny is when Ron Artest is like, "Oh no,
Mm.
Jermaine O'Neal's gonna be so mad at me," and then Stephen A. Jackson said that Ron Artest said, "Are we gonna get in trouble for this?" Like that just shows you his mind is not at the right place because yeah,
Mm.
you're gonna get in trouble.
Oh
And
yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I think Jermaine O'Neal was like,
Oh,
"Are you serious?"
that's why it
No.
was fine.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I would have been mad too if you said that. Like, yeah. But anyway, yeah, I just think, mental health is it's so I don't know, if he was like I said, if he was in his 30s instead of his 20s, maybe it would have worked out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but who knows? Who knows?
But then you look back when Reggie Miller said all he wanted out of the game was a championship. And it's like, dang. Cause like some people might need it for the money, some might need it for the fame, or some might want the ring. They started off of the doc saying that like people want this ring. And then you kind of forget about that when your emotions get involved. But it's like if you just kind of they say keep that eye on the prize. But it also takes your team too. Like I forgot who that player was, but they was like Steven Jackson was like, why would you like make him put a battery in his back or something to feel that emotion, rile him up. It just starts with your team. I think that's why I started with my word team because you got to keep y'all locked in before anybody else. You know, I don't know.
And who knows, the coach should have, probably got the starters out sooner. Actually, both
Yes.
teams, actually, if the games are almost over, why is Ben Wallace in the game? Why is Ron Artest in the game? Put your
Yeah.
bench in that, like, come on now. But, I guess everybody gets a little piece, and,
Yeah.
well,
Mhm.
thanks for joining me, cuz. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me, who do you blame? You know, who suffered the most? you
Mhm.
know, Championship is everything. Some players don't get it. Some players get a second chance, some don't. You know,
Mhm.
we'll see. But shout out to O'Neal, because I be well, the daughter isn't like in college anymore. She just graduated. Well,
Oh yeah.
O'Neal's daughter was like a great volleyball player,
Oh
and
wow.
so I, she's
Love
really good,
sports.
and so. She just graduated. Even she won some championships in college. So
Oh
shout out to
wow.
O'Neal.
Yeah.
But
The
yeah,
O'Neills.
yeah. I actually had a crush on O'Neal when I was younger.
Oh. Okay.
Because
Okay.
I liked the braids and he had nice eyes. But anyway.
Mhm.
Oh, but if you look at Ron Artest's son, it's a little scary because they look like twins.
Whoa.
It's always scary when that happens. Like
Yeah.
Ja Rule's son, Caleb
Hmm.
Pratt's daughter. They look
Mhm.
like twins. Like,
Yeah.
but anyway, thanks for joining me, Malice in the Palace Untold. Like these Untold series. Good job,
Mhm.
Netflix. And peace out. And stay ballin'.
Hey.